So this model has been quietly sitting in the back of San Martin's these days quite extensive catalogue of watches, and on the product pictures it kind of looks, what's the right word, bland or unremarkable. However, something really weird happened when I started wearing this watch in preparation for this review. This timepiece drew more attention to itself and attracted more comments than any of 50 or so watches that I've reviewed in the last 12 months. And as I've learned, there are many interesting things here that are hidden from the view too, like premium Miyota 9000 caliber in the back and more. However, just in case you think there will be just songs and praises here, well, not so fast. There are definitely a few things that you need to know about this watch, so let's take a closer look. Hello and welcome back. So as I pointed out, this watch has a lot of interesting features up its sleeve. However, as I also noted, there are a few things that I would classify as compromises. One is kinda big and mostly in your face, and a few less noticeable ones, and we will get to them in a bit. However, before we do, you probably saw a pop-up at the start of this video. San Martin reached out and asked if I would be interested in reviewing this model. Evidently, I agreed, and now it is here. And for full disclosure, I will be keeping it too. I will of course leave all the necessary product links for this watch in the description of this video. Check them out if you are after a sharp price. So let's dissect the design. To me, this kind of looks like if AP Royal Oak and Grand Seiko had a baby. Maybe not the best analogy, but integrated multifaceted bracelet and chiseled like dolphin-style hands, and our markers all point to those two brands as inspiration. And then we get a very interestingly sculpted fixed bezel, which doesn't really look like any big brand's designs that I can think of. And then we also get one of my favorite features on this watch, the dial. It is not particularly obvious on the product pictures, but the dial has a somewhat silver background with subtle metal sheen, and the lightly brushed texture of the dial gives it an industrial stainless steel look, making it appear as an integral part of the overall solid stainless steel watch, and I really like this effect. So this is all great. Now here is something that isn't so wonderful though, and having Grand Seiko Snowflake as inspiration for the dial elements resulted in the same issue as on the $7,000 Snowflake. Yep, there is no lume here. Okay, it might be considered not a must-have on this style of watch, however, something definitely to keep in mind. As for the movement, San Martin installed a premium Miyota 9000 caliber here, which I personally think is a great choice, and I've got so excited about it that I even put it on a time grapher with some interesting results, which we will of course look at a bit later in this video. Right, dimensions. So we have about 38.8mm case diameter, 9.6mm case height, nice and slim, taking a full advantage of the low profile of Miyota 9000 series movement. And a lug-to-lug distance here is 49.3mm, which is pretty good. However, because of the integrated bracelet, the perceived distance is even smaller, which should make this watch work on wrists starting from about 6 inches and up. And coincidentally, 6 inches is approximately the smallest circumference that we can size this bracelet to if we are to remove all the removable links. The integrated bracelet tapers down from about 26.5mm down to 18mm by the clasp, and this bracelet has enough links to cover wrists up to 8 inches or just over 20 cm in circumference. And this watch weighs 160 grams and 150 grams after adjusting it to my about 7-inch wrist. Zooming on to the case, and it looks like San Martin took a step here at original design, and personally I like the results. The horizontal brushing on the bezel seamlessly aligned with the case lugs and the dial, creating a cohesive and striking visual aesthetics. And to me, this level of integrated styling is quite unique. The fixed bezel combines polished bevels with brushed sections for added interest, while elegantly polished case chamfers accentuate the brushed flanks, which is also a practical choice for minimizing the visibility of inevitable future scratches. Moving on to the crown, and it is a hexagonal shaped crown, there is no crown guards, and the crown is engraved with San Martin logo. And it is also a screw-down crown, which helps to ensure those 100 meters of declared water resistance. Flipping the case over, and we have a fairly flat case back secured with 8 screws, and it is also sterile, a design choice which is reminiscent of big brands like Rolex, for example. And while this is a practical decision, an exhibition case back showing Miyota's movement might have been a better design choice. And talking about the movement, San Martin installed Miyota 9015 caliber here. It is a Miyota's premium line of movements with better finishing, smoother second-hand sweep because of the higher bitrate of 28,800 vibrations per hour, and this movement also has a higher accuracy tolerances of -10 to +30 seconds per day. However, the real-world accuracy on these Miyotas is usually known to be better than that, and that is exactly why I decided to put it on the time grapher. And as you can see, the accuracy is quite impressive, definitely outperforming claimed parameters. And I'm not sure if San Martin does some fine-tuning of the movements at the factory, or I'm just lucky. Whichever way, I have no complaints here. Okay, one thing we do need to note, the Miyota 9015 movement has a date function, which on a no-date watch, as this one results in the ghost crown position. Not a big deal, of course, but something to keep in mind. So the sapphire crystal on this watch is perfectly flat, and it is installed a fraction of a millimeter above the bezel. There is also a fair amount of anti-reflective coating applied on the inside of this crystal, so it deals with reflections really well, as you can see on this footage, which was taken on one of the 5 sunny days in London this year. Okay, I am exaggerating. As usual, there are definitely more than 5 sunny days per year in London. I'm pretty sure there must be at least 6 or possibly even 7. And of course, we need to talk about the elephant in the room, so to speak, although it is a very pretty elephant. And I am talking about the integrated bracelet on this timepiece. And while San Martin exercised some level of design creativity on the case and the dial of this watch, well, there will be no points for originality when it comes to the bracelet. However, the execution is excellent, down to the details of the screws and pins design for the link connection, which generate very little turning pressure on the screws, and as such is probably one of the most reliable approaches to the bracelet links connectivity. And then the finishing. It is really good, with the seamless transitions from the horizontal brushing on the case to horizontal brushing on the top of the bracelet, as well as the high polish chamfers on the sides. Apart from the chamfers, the bracelet is fully brushed. However, because of the multitude of various facets, it still creates a very attractive light play. The tolerances are also very good, and while due to the bracelet link arrangement there is a bit of a restricted articulation between the links, there is still plenty of flexibility for comfortable wrist fit. As for the clasp, again, a very few points for originality here too, but the build quality is top-notch. We have a very robust butterfly-type clasp with engraved San Martin logo. It looks very good, however, there are a couple of things that I need to point out about this clasp, which I consider, let's call them compromises. However, for obvious reasons, I'm not sure if San Martin can take a full credit for all these clasp shortcomings. So first, being a butterfly clasp, there are no macro adjustments, and even with comparatively short links of about 5 mm, getting a perfect wrist fit could be a bit of a challenge. And my second complaint here is how unusually sharp are the sides of the latches on the clasp. They are not sharp enough or big enough to inflict serious damage, however, I felt them straight away when I tried to close the clasp for the first time, and it is not a very pleasant sensation when your finger catches on them. Okay, it is something I've got used to very quickly, and as long as you're careful, there will be no issue, but still it left me wondering if Audemars Piguet Royal Oak bracelet has a similar issue. If you have experience with Royal Oak integrated bracelets, well, please, by all means, do share with us in the comments. Right, so my personal take on this watch after spending about a week with it was surprising, even for me. I was looking for kind of dress watch that will be subtle yet interesting and also very practical, so I don't have to worry about it if I go for occasional swim while sipping cocktails by the pool. And this San Martin ticks all these somewhat mutually exclusive boxes. It doesn't have a bright, bedazzling look-at-me dial, and yet the overall design, beautifully executed bracelet and smooth Miyota 9000 movement provides plenty of interest. Priced at around $270, it is what I call a sleeper. Subtle at the first glance, but packing a heck of a punch if you get closer. What are your thoughts? Well, do let us know in the comments. However, if you're after San Martin that is rather more of a capable diver than a dress watch, say with 300 meters of water resistance, then check out my playlist on the screen over here. Don't forget to like and of course subscribe if you haven't already done so. Thank you for watching, take care, and I will see you in the next video.